Chapter 481 The Old Leader with a Hard Mouth. Seeing the extremely confident look of the old leader of the Jitian sect, Zhao Yunyao knew in her heart that he would not listen to her words at all and take any precautionary measures. Since the other party was not happy, she did not say much. Just let him understand the difference in a while. Leader, I'm going to attack. Zhao Yunyao took the initiative to remind him, then raised her hand and pointed forward. The next moment, a palm-sized blue fireball condensed out of thin air, and then turned into a fire crow, cackled and flew towards the old leader. It passed in the air in an instant, like a blue lightning. That's it. Seeing this, the old leader's face became more confident and calm, and he even vaguely felt that he was underestimated, and he was a little unhappy in his heart. You actually used the lowest level of bone scripture to face this leader, and you dare to underestimate this leader so much. When he noticed this situation, the old leader made a decision in his heart. He must let the new leader Qing He and the sect understand the gap between them, and let her know that there are always people who are better than people. Just because you have broken through the leader, you can't look down on him. The old leader didn't say much. He decided to use practical actions to let the other party know how big the difference is between the old monks and the new monks. Boom! The leader of the Jitian sect raised his right hand and pressed forward with his palm. He didn't use any bone scripture magic at all. He planned to rely on his own strong physique that had been polished for many tens of thousands of years to take on this extremely ordinary bone scripture magic with his bare hands. The crystal-clear jade palm was like a sacred mountain passing through the sky. Soon, it collided with the blue fire crow in midair. However, when the two sides just came into contact, the face of the leader of the Jitian sect suddenly changed. The power contained in this bone script treasure technique was so huge that it was a little abnormal. It could actually be compared with the immortal treasure technique. As soon as it came into contact, a strong burning pain suddenly came from the inside of the palm of his right hand, and there was a burnt smell. This is clearly an ordinary treasure technique. How could it be like this? The leader of the Jitian sect quickly withdrew his hand, as if he was electrocuted. Seeing that the blue fire crow was still flying towards him, the speed was almost unstoppable. With a serious expression on his face, he hit forward with both hands one after another, one palm after another, bringing out a series of phantoms, and a series of exquisite bone script treasure techniques burst out from it. But the blue fire crow was incredibly agile. It was as if it was not a law energy body evolved from the bone scripture, but a real living thing with its own independent life and thinking consciousness. The blue fire crow, about a foot in size, flew and swooped in the air at a high speed. After dodging several attacks from the old leader of the Jitian sect, it then advanced at an incredible speed, suddenly came in front of the old leader, and finally slammed into him. Boom, crackle. In an instant, a blue flame bloomed in front of him. Not only did it burn the old leader's long beard under his chin, but also the protective robes he was wearing had many cracks and damages. As for the old leader himself, he fell back involuntarily. No, I must not lose face in front of the younger generation. The old leader reacted very quickly, and took a deep breath to keep himself standing, his feet rooted in the void. But his face suddenly became a little abnormally flushed. But it soon disappeared, as if it had never appeared. However, the blue veins on the white forehead almost popped up, making the face look a little more ferocious. After a while, the old leader's face became a little paler. He looked at Zhao Yunyao, with his eyes widened unconsciously. There was some shock and horror in his eyes. How could the power of her magic be so powerful? It's just an ordinary magic, and the charm of a living creature. Extremely agile. Could this be the legendary Fai Yuanling? Not far away, Zhao Yunyao saw the face of the old leader of Jitian sect turn red and white, changing back and forth, and he actually took it head on. He couldn't help but admire it a little. Although it was just a small attempt by me, it is nothing at all. At most, it is just the tip of the iceberg of the essence of the human immortal's control of magic. But not every leader can take it like this. He just suffered some minor injuries. His foundation is indeed not bad. There is still hope for further progress in the future. I just don't know if he can encounter an opportunity for a breakthrough. Although there are many thoughts in his mind, Zhao Yunyao's expression on the surface did not change much. He just showed a slightly concerned attitude. Leader, are you okay? If you are injured, don't force yourself. It will feel better if you spit out the blood. Who said that this leader was injured? The old leader blushed, clenched his teeth, and a voice with a suppressed charm seemed to be squeezed out slowly from his teeth. With your means as a new leader. And such an ordinary bone scripture. You want to hurt this leader? This leader suddenly remembered that I was in a hurry when I came here, and forgot to close the door of the secret room. Next time. This leader will come again, to teach you experience. When these words came out, the blue veins on the old leader's forehead were about to pop out. Then he left without hesitation. In just a blink of an eye, he disappeared in front of Zhao Yunyao. The look of leaving quickly seemed to be quite impatient, as if there was a terrible monster chasing behind. Seeing the old leader go away by himself, the concern on Zhao Yunyao's face also faded. He muttered in a low voice, "Why bother to save face and suffer in life? I won't laugh at you behind your back. At most, I will laugh loudly in front of you for fun." No longer caring about the old leader of Jitian sect, Zhao Yunyao turned around and left here. Soon he returned to the Jitian sect branch base inside Huzhou. At the same time, tens of thousands of miles away, in an uninhabited area, the old leader of Jitian sect could no longer bear it, and suddenly opened his mouth and spat out a large mouthful of blood. The green blood splashed onto the ground, melting it into red and hot magma. Obviously, there was a high amount of power left in the blood. This little girl. It's not been long since she broke through. How could she be so powerful? The old leader hurriedly sat down, quickly took out half of the holy medicine he carried with him, and stuffed it into his mouth. Like a cow chewing a peony, he chewed it a few times and swallowed it. Then he used the healing magic at the same time and recuperated on the spot. It was not until a long time later that the abnormal complexion on his face recovered a little. After feeling that the initial conditioning was almost done, the old leader opened his eyes, looked down at the robes on his body that had cracks and lost their aura, and was unconsciously horrified. If it weren't for this thing blocking and weakening a lot of power, I'm afraid the injury would be more serious. Chapter 482. The older, the stronger. After feeling the injuries on his body for a while, the old leader of Jitian sect sat quietly for a while, and suddenly burst into laughter, full of joy and happiness. He was happy for the strength of the first generation of Qinghe in the sect. She has just broken through, and she can compete head-on with an old leader like me. And I lost by one move. If she is given enough time to grow, in the future, she may be able to lead Jitian sect to a further step. Even if she cannot compare with those immortal families and immortal dynasties, she is also likely to get out of the 3,000 Dao states. The old leader looked up and stared at the vast starry sky. As an old monk who has lived for millions of years, he knows clearly that there are more powerful and terrifying worlds outside the 3,000 Dao states. The 9 heavens and 10 earths. The 3,000 Dao states is just one of them. It is still not a very powerful and terrifying type. Su Dao. Kill me. Escape 1. Supreme. I wonder how far Qinghe little girl can go in the future. The leader of the Su Dao realm is not strong enough after all. After staring at the starry sky for a long time, the old leader of Jitian sect slowly stood up from the ground. He carefully tidied up his clothes to make sure that others could not see anything unusual. And then he took off again and flew to the headquarters of Jitian sect. In the following period of time, the news that a new leader-level figure was born in Jitian sect was spread everywhere, and widely known under the intentional publicity of Jitian sect. And the preparations for the celebration of the leader also began to be carried out in a big way. For a moment, the headquarters of Jitian sect seemed very lively. At the same time, many members of other forces also came out to take the opportunity to find out more detailed information about the new leader. As the person involved, Zhao Yunyao still stayed in the Huzhou branch. If Jitian sect did not want to show off its muscles, and she had stayed in Jitian sect for some years, and the relationship between them was pretty good, Zhao Yunyao would not care about the so-called leader celebration. She sat in the pavilion halfway up the mountain, looking up slightly. Many things that ordinary cultivators could not see were truly displayed in her eyes. Zhao Yunyao looked through the starry sky, saw through the chaos, and looked at the other 9 heavens and 9 earths. Some places are not as good as the 3,000 Dao states, but more places are actually much stronger than the 3,000 Dao states. I have some understanding of the laws of this world, the laws of other worlds, and the burial areas in between. I don't need to waste too much energy on this. Just a little understanding will do. When the main body comes over, go to the fairyland. Go to the other side of the boundary sea. And there is also the world of heaven, the burial pit of the emperor above heaven, the 4 poles of floating earth, the Soul River, the Reincarnation Channel, the Strange Ancestral Land, and the Plateau of Evil Land, etc. These places still have unique laws of order. I just don't know how long it will take for the main body to come over. Although the laws of time are different, resulting in different speeds of time, they are also in a state of change at all times. The main body can contact himself, but it is difficult for him to directly contact the main body. So this human immortal clone doesn't know the specific situation. Only by relying on the special origin connection between the Yang God, Zhao Yunyao, the human immortal clone, can judge that her original body is becoming more and more terrifying. The older, the more powerful, which is fully reflected in her. The speed of expansion and strengthening is more terrifying than exponential growth. The original body has cultivated the only way, and the existence of the body is the source of the new infinite multidimensional avenue, and the beginning and end of all the internal fields of absolute life. This means that the expansion of the only way of the original body also has infinite growth results, endlessly evolving and improving itself. Thinking alone for a while, Zhao Yunyao returned to her usual state of meditation, almost not caring about worldly affairs, and not caring about the wind and rain of the outside world. It was quite like sitting on the river bank, watching the leisurely struggle of various fish in the long river of time. Whether it was weird or here, it was just a two-sided struggle of the Tao. In essence, they all originated from the same origin goal. Only cultivators, who could not see through this, would fight desperately for such things. Little did they know that, as long as the original source still existed, even if it was completely destroyed for a while, it could not be considered as true destruction. It was just a manifestation of the transformation of the two sides of the Tao. The source of the Tao here was the master of the three-generation bronze coffin. After a while, the headquarters of the Jitian sect began to hold a grand celebration for the leader. On this day, Zhao Yunyao also attended in a gorgeous dress, becoming the focus of the eyes of the cultivators and forces of various races present. A cultivator in the realm of Shudao in his 20s was really young and terrifying. However, cultivators of this level had appeared before. All of them are geniuses. Many cultivators and forces present were extremely confident, if they did not seek the greatest fortune left by the ancient era of immortals. Many evildoers would suppress themselves for years and cut their own cultivation. They were confident that once they let go of the breakthrough, their cultivation speed would definitely not be slow. Therefore, although many major forces were surprised at the young age of the first generation Qinghe, they did not make any assassination moves. Of course, this is also related to the fact that the Jitian sect itself is the top major force here. If it were a genius from an ordinary small force, either join obediently and become one of their own, or destroy it in advance, and will not give the other party a chance to grow up. Bullying the weak is as simple and common as a daily routine. It takes a little time. After holding the celebration of the leader of the first generation Qinghe, Zhao Yunyao left Huizhou and began to walk alone in other places in Sanqian Daozhou, with the attitude of sightseeing, experience and witness the laws and order of the natural world. Learn the law from the world and understand the Tao from nature, learning from the heaven and earth to seek the truth. A certain swallowing universe see. The edge. As the original body, Zhao Yunyao was sitting here quietly, patiently waiting for the final stage of the transformation of the celestial clone Ai Qin. She turned her head and looked at the origin continent, and a smile flashed across her lips. If it weren't for the Tao transforming heavenly clothes that can isolate different order guidelines, and the absolute life field that perfectly seals the inner self, I'm afraid the supreme rules of the origin world would have jumped out long ago. But even if it jumped out, it would have been useless to me now. The origin continent is indeed very large, much larger than the 3,000-dimensional universes combined. However, for Zhao Yunyao now, staying in one of the universes, even if she doesn't need to go to the origin continent, there are still higher-level Hunyuan space and other places. Her terrifying perception can still sense the specific situation over there. Sitting here is enough to witness a lot, without having to run over specifically. I don't know how long it has been. Zhao Yunyao, who has always been partly focused on the lightsaber universe, finally waited for the final transformation of the celestial fairy Ai Qin. The vast lightsaber universe began to shrink suddenly and rapidly. Chapter 483 Heaven. In the vast sea of chaotic universe, the huge and amazing lightsaber universe was floating in it, changing constantly. At a certain moment, the lightsaber universe began to shrink suddenly as a whole, and new changes occurred. And in the whole process, Various order laws began to transform into real and substantial existence. Let the invisible Tao become tangible. Noticing this change, Zhao Yuniao opened her eyes and stared quietly at the lightsaber universe not far away. Under her attention, the entire universe shrank and transformed, and the transformation efficiency became faster and faster. And such changes also stirred up huge waves in the surrounding chaotic air. Rolling here. Soon, a huge chaotic vortex black hole was formed. The center of it was where the lightsaber universe was before. But at this moment, this huge universe has gradually lost the essence and form of the universe. But it has turned into a purple light ball. The light ball itself is purely condensed by the real Tao, making the Tao no longer illusory. Seeing this, Zhao Yuniao smiled, raised his hand to absorb the purple light, and then absorbed it into his own absolute life field, became a part of his own unique Tao. At the same time, Zhao Yuniao's own internal changes, due to the integration of the heavenly immortal Tao fruit, naturally entered a new round of transformation and sublimation. Let the evolution and expansion speed of the unique Tao be significantly enhanced. Now that the heavenly immortal, earthly immortal and human immortal Tao fruits have all been cultivated, it is time to obtain and cultivate the divine immortal Tao fruit as well. Zhao Yuniao stood up, her expression full of calmness, but before that, take away the immortal Tao fruit first. With a flick of his sleeve, a space-time channel suddenly condensed in the chaotic universe in front of him. Zhao Yuniao rushed through it, and then disappeared here out of thin air. And the space-time channel disappeared with it. 9 heavens and 10 earths. Inside the 3,000 Tao states. Haijo. Looking around, there are vast sea waters everywhere, with huge waves, like a tsunami sweeping. The scattered islands are like small black dots scattered in the vast ocean. It looks inconspicuous, almost non-existent. And in a certain sea area, a beautiful woman in a blue exquisite long dress is leisurely walking on the sea, watching the water and sky between heaven and earth. Suddenly, the clone Zhao Yuniao paused and looked up at the sky slightly. The clear blue sky suddenly formed a deep vortex channel silently, causing the time and space there to show abnormal distortion. Then, a mysterious figure of the most divine and holy walked out from the inside at a leisurely pace. The hazy white light surrounding his body hid his face and figure, making it difficult to see clearly. It seemed to exist in the world, but it seemed to be separated by infinite time and space dimensions. The contradictory and awkward visual sense made all the creatures who saw the scene disappear out of thin air. Even the timeline of their own existence was melted and annihilated. In this vast sea, only the first generation Qinghe, as the incarnation of the human immortal, was not affected by it and could still exist safely in the original place. The clone and the original body looked at each other, without any verbal communication. All memories were naturally shared and assimilated. Then, in the next moment, the first generation Qinghe, the clone of the human immortal, turned into a brilliant stream of light and flew up, falling into the palm of Zhao Yuniao's original body. The glow belonging to the only way spread, accommodating the clone of the human immortal. Then its entire body quietly sank into Zhao Yuniao's body. Then, Zhao Yuniao took a step forward, and the great way of the heavens under her feet resonated, and naturally with her footprints, condensed and evolved into the origin of a new way. Every step she took was the birth and death of the mysterious great way. It was full of all kinds of incredible wonders. The time and space of the heavens, no matter how heavy the waves were, could not stop her steps at all. Just as time and space stagnated, all the waves were extinguished, and when Zhao Yuniao reappeared, she had already appeared in the fairyland. This fairyland, which was piled up by many universes, was seen through by Zhao Yuniao at a glance. The birth and death of all spirits, the evolution of all living beings, and the vicissitudes of life. Without exception, Zhao Yuniao looked through the past and the future, overlooking the ancient and modern times, and understood the birth and death of various cultivation systems. The evolution of one era after another passed by like a fleeting light. A short stop inside the fairyland. Not long after, Zhao Yuniao set out again, took a step, left the fairyland, and appeared in the dark land opposite the boundary sea. The 4 quasi-immortal emperors, and 1 immortal emperor, who stayed here did not notice Zhao Yuniao's arrival at all. Their existence is still constrained by time, and cannot transcend time. Therefore, they cannot see the scenery outside of time. Zhao Yuniao strolled alone in this dark land that was polluted by strange things. With a casual glance, she could see how huge it was. which was much larger than the boundary sea. Compared with it, the fairyland was as small as dust. Not to mention the foreign land, burial land, and the 9 heavens and 10 earths that were not as good as the fairyland. And the heaven-covering universe in the later generations was much smaller and more fragile than the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Observing and looking around casually, all kinds of Tao rules and orders were truly displayed in front of her. Zhao Yuniao took her own unique Tao as her goal, conducted comparative analysis, took its advantages, and strengthened herself. Although the improvement and enhancement in this process was not as fast as her own passive evolution and growth, but it was a way to continue to improve herself. After watching for a while, Zhao Yuniao's figure flashed and appeared out of thin air at the entrance to the heavenly world. That was a real world. Under the tiny hole the size of a mortal's thumb, there was a huge stone chair like a mountain. On the stone chair, there was a half-broken immortal emperor lying. However, this immortal emperor had long been contaminated by the strange black fog, and he did not look very good. At this moment, Zhao Yuniao was standing in front of him, but he was also unaware. He had always been in a long period of recuperation and sleep. After a few casual glances, Zhao Yuniao jumped up and followed the tiny hole above the other person's head into the interior of the heaven of the Great Thousand World. Boom! The vast sea of blood roared and flooded everything around. Red blood, golden blood, 9-color blood, black blood. The sea of blood of various colors filled the interior of the heaven of the Great Thousand World, making it full of death and evil. Even if there were any remaining buildings, they were all in ruins, with broken walls and broken walls. At a glance, Zhao Yuniao saw death and decay. In the vast world, only one immortal emperor was lucky enough to remain and was still alive. As for the other immortal emperors and sacrificial Daos, as well as the group of ants below the immortal emperors, they had all died long ago, with a biological sister at the sacrificial Dao realm. This immortal emperor Luo Tianxian was lucky enough to survive. Zhao Yuniao took a look and understood. It's a pity that she is not talented enough to break through to the level above the immortal emperor. Chapter 484 Let the weird move away. In the eyes of practitioners below the level of the immortal emperor, the scene inside this heavenly world is prosperous and thriving, with practitioners of various races constantly active and multiplying in it. Immortal sects, magnificent and transcendent families. There are also the collision and fusion of various different cultivation systems, stirring up the sparks of civilization evolution. It really has everything that should be inside the universe. But in the eyes of practitioners at the level of the immortal emperor and above, the heavenly world has long become a dead and withered ruin. And even evil spirits do not exist. The entire universe was slaughtered by the weird clan and reduced to sacrifices. The past is projected, hoping to revive the heavenly beings. It's just living in the dream of the past, unwilling to wake up, unwilling to accept this sad and painful fact. With a casual glance, Zhao Yuniao saw 2 scenes of heaven, real and illusory. The heaven in the illusion is still as prosperous as in the past, but the real heaven has long been bloody and ruined. It's just that, in order to maintain the past projection of the entire universe, even for a powerful immortal emperor like Luo Tianxian, it is a big burden. Even the top cultivators in the heaven, she herself can't project a single bit. For example, her own sister Luo Tianyi is a cultivator who surpasses the immortal emperor. Although she can't save her sister by doing this. But at least it makes me look quite relaxed at the moment. So it's not useless at all. Looking around casually, Zhao Yuniao witnessed many different cultivation systems from the virtual projection of the heaven. From these things, she absorbed a little useful information for herself. Although it was not much, it was better than nothing. At least it strengthened her only way a little. In the end, Zhao Yuniao chose to leave the heaven alone, and had no intention of meeting Luo Tianxian in the dark. After leaving the heaven world, she rushed to a higher interface. It took a while. She went to the Soul River, the 4 extremes floating earth, the immortal emperor burial pit, and other places successively, witnessing and appreciating different Tao rules and orders, and witnessing different cultivation systems. Then she walked in different reincarnation channels, and watched the reincarnation mystery here. It's just that the reincarnation here is quite different from the reincarnation in her ghost fairy system, and it is not very suitable for use. Next, Zhao Yuniao went to the weird ancestral land. The less than 10 weird immortal emperors sitting here are still bound by time, and they can't notice Zhao Yuniao, who has long transcended the years and time. She strolled around the strange ancestral land alone, witnessing the results accumulated over so many eras. She turned the useful things into her own food and nourishment, then left the strange ancestral land and headed straight for the origin of all this, the Erde Plateau. Zhao Yuniao realized the power of the Erde Plateau after entering it. The world as vast as the heavenly world is no different from dust inside the Erde Plateau. It is too small and fragile, and the gap between the two is ridiculously huge. It was not until I came to the Erde Plateau that I felt the real texture of the world. Not so fragile, but there is only a trace, and it still cannot carry all of my true body. At this moment, Zhao Yuniao is completely in a state of restraining herself. Let the infinite be like infinitely small. Otherwise, if she really lets go of the normal infinite power of her only Tao, let alone the weak worlds outside the evil Earth Plateau, even this evil Earth Plateau will be destroyed. Although the evil Earth Plateau is powerful, it is still far behind the multidimensional infinity, because the evil Earth Plateau is a limited world volume. With the finite against the infinite, it is already at a weak level, and this contrast gap will become more and more huge and terrifying, and infinitely extended. It is not good for the weird clan to sacrifice the master of the 3-generation bronze coffin. Anyway, that guy often actively seeks death and does not want to live at all. Instead of sacrificing him, it is better to sacrifice me. Standing inside the evil Earth Plateau, Zhao Yuniao looked around for a moment, suddenly took out his life altar, shook his hand, and let it fall naturally on the evil Earth Plateau. Boom, boom, boom. Instantly, waves of terrifying vibrations that were enough to shatter the world sounded here. The huge and deep plateau continent suddenly broke into extremely deep and tortuous cracks, and the entire Erde Plateau was shaken and trembled a few times. Who is it? How dare you trespass here? Almost at the same time, waves of roars came from a very far distance. The 10 ancestors of the weird clan came out together. The previous big vibration scared them a little, so they had to be cautious and wake up from their slumber. Even the mysterious world spirits hidden inside the Erde Plateau quietly paid attention to the source of the vibration. A mysterious red altar with 9 floors and 8 corners appeared out of thin air, showing a magnificent and majestic sacrificial Tao rhyme. Just staring at it and watching, these sacrificial Tao cultivators were terrified. So much so that after coming to this vicinity, the 10 strange ancestors did not dare to approach rashly. Where did the altar come from? How did this thing suddenly appear here? An ancestor with black mist all over his body looked at it intently and said solemnly, looking at this thing, I always have a sense of uneasy fear. It seems that this thing can kill even our ancestors forever and cannot be resurrected on the plateau. The altar is an extremely sacred thing, and it is definitely not something that everyone can own. Not far away, a human figure surrounded by pale mist looked carefully and boldly guessed, do you think this could be made by that mysterious existence? After all, our birth is related to that mysterious existence, the sacrificial object that can allow our ancestors to join forces and explore the ancient, modern and future time and space, but still cannot find out its origin. Must be extraordinary. Just when the 10 weird ancestors were talking to each other, suddenly, an unparalleled terrifying avenue pressure suddenly came from above this mysterious altar. The 10 ancestors who were oppressed on the spot froze in place, like a bug in the solidified amber. In the shock of the weird ancestors, a terrifying female figure that had never been seen before, but extremely powerful, quietly appeared at the edge of the altar. At this moment, she looked down slightly and overlooked themselves. Just a simple gaze made their bodies and souls break apart. Let the entire Erde Plateau vibrate and tremble. From now on, your clan can only worship this palace. That voice, although soft and ethereal, was very pleasant to hear. But in the ears of the 10 weird ancestors, it seemed as if the supreme Tao was roaring. The collapse of the heavens, the rotation of the era, or the change of years, could not compare to the slightest sound. Just hearing the sound of Tao, the 10 ancestors felt that they had a tendency to break through. Chapter 485, Responding to the Future. The mystery contained in this sound shocked the 10 strange ancestors. They never thought that in this world, in addition to the mysterious and missing master of the 3-generation bronze coffin, there are unknown strongmen who are much stronger than them. But before they could think of anything, the mysterious female figure that appeared on the top of the red altar disappeared silently. From beginning to end, they failed to detect the appearance and disappearance of each other. So that looking at the altar in front of them, the 10 strange ancestors looked at each other in bewilderment. There was a kind of weakness facing the strong. After leaving the life altar on the evil land plateau, Zhao Yuniao left here alone again, relying on her own means and abilities to open the way to other big world systems, and soon appeared in the subsidiary world of the Liaozhai world. She glanced at this subsidiary world where yin and yang blended. Suddenly, she waved her hand to open the passage to the underworld, took a step, and appeared directly in the depths of the underworld. Ghost Gate, Yellow Spring River, Naiha Bridge, Wrongful Death City, Three Life Stone, Yama Palace, etc. all came into view one by one. Finally, Zhao Yuniao focused his attention on the real place of reincarnation, staring at the 6 dark and deep huge vortex passages in front of him. Zhao Yuniao's eyes were dim, penetrating all kinds of external appearances, observing the inner mystery of the origin of the great road of reincarnation. Heaven, Asura, human, animal, hungry ghost and hell. These 6 paths of reincarnation, in Zhao Yuniao's eyes, unfolded layers of laws and orders, facing the 6 paths directly. It didn't take long for Zhao Yuniao to fully understand them. These 6 reincarnations still have the distinction between good and evil, and are not the way of reincarnation for ghosts and immortals. There is no distinction between good and evil, no righteousness and evil, only when all living beings are included, and the true spirit reincarnates without ignorance. Can it be called the great way of reincarnation for ghosts and immortals? Although this is not the way that suits her, it also has a different mystery of reincarnation. For Zhao Yuniao, this is not without gain. After watching the 6 reincarnations here, Zhao Yuniao once again opened the time and space shuttle channel and returned to the world of Zhu Xian. She shared all memories with another clone who stayed here. At the same time, the Divine Mind sensed the huge changes in the entire Zhu Xian world, and Zhao Yuniao naturally knew the details of the development. Understand that the cultivation system here has been transferred to the 5 immortal Dao system. The current Zhu Xian world is the coexistence of the original cultivation system and the 5 immortal system passed down by Zhao Yuniao. And the 5 immortal system has an obvious trend of gradually growing. At this moment, Zhao Yuniao stood alone in the sky, overlooking and observing the fierce battle between the demon sect and the righteous way. The focus of observation is on Waran Wang of the Ghost King sect. Waran Wang today is no longer a normal Waran Wang. He is controlled by Shura. This Shura, as well as the inner part of the Fulong Ding, is neither from this world nor from this time and space. Zhao Yuniao observed for a moment, and suddenly looked at the future time and space of this world. Shura comes from a different world in the future. At this glance, she saw through the extremely distant future time and space. She clearly saw the prosperity of the 5 immortal paths that she had passed on. And through this, too many immortal ways were born. Immortality, and indestructibility make this world extremely terrifying. When they have a strong cultivation, the 5 immortals are naturally unwilling to be trapped in this world for life. So they began to invade and explore the outside world. The God realm, the Shura realm, the Ghost realm, the Heaven realm, the Earthly immortal realm, etc. One after another powerful world. Exchanges and conflicts occurred in this process, and different contradictions were generated. A great melee that affected the nearby worlds of heavens quietly kicked off. And because the civilization development time is still short, the accumulated foundation is not deep enough, so that the 5 immortals in this world have a clear foundation decline in this great melee of heavens. Among them, the conflict with the Shura realm is the most intense and fierce. The Shura that is now possessed by thousands of people is from the Shura realm in the future world. Zhao Yuniao can see clearly the purpose of the other party coming here when he looks down at the years in time. They want to stop the cultivators in this world from going back to the past and ask for help from me, the 5 immortal Taoist ancestor. However, I have already seen that little girl from the future, and Shura's obstruction and interference also caused a time and space deviation, running to an even more ancient past. Now they are using Waran Wang's body to attack Qingyan sect, which is also related to this. Although Zhao Yuniao doesn't care much about the life and death of the sentient beings in this future world, but since it is related to her own cultivation of the immortal Dao fruit, she can't really ignore everything. She is confident that if she gives it enough time, more and more immortal Dao cultivators will definitely be born. At that time, the decline will be reversed by itself. As the Taoist ancestor of this great system, Zhao Yuniao naturally knows very well how mysterious the 5 immortal Dao is, and it has extremely high development and improvement potential. Moreover, once they step into the level of immortality, no matter which of the 5 immortals they are, They will become extremely difficult to kill. Celestial immortals coexist with Taoism. Earthly immortals differentiate all spirits. Human immortals control the essence of Taoism. Gods live in information. And as for ghost immortals, they are even more true and clear. All kinds of incredible life-saving abilities have brought the immortality of life to a new level. It is easy to defeat, but extremely difficult to kill. Look down and observe the future of this world for a moment. Zhao Yunyan suddenly raised his hand and pointed to the future, using the entire world as the foundation to arrange a world-class defense formation that is neither strong nor weak. The formation is not strong enough, so that they will not be lazy and have a sense of crisis. And the formation is not weak enough, which gives them a certain counterattack protection ability, so that there is enough time in the future to develop and improve civilization in self, and strengthen the foundation of the 5 immortal ways. Go back in time and space to ask for help. This Taoist will respond to you. As for how far you can go in the future, it depends on your own ability. The words that came out of his mouth were soft, but they shook the eternal time and space. It resounded in every time and space node and dimension. We, the disciples of Taoism, thank the Taoist for his kindness. The magnificent responses came from the extremely distant future of the era, making the years and time ripple. And those top bosses in the God realm, the Earth Immortal realm, and the Azura realm exist. After hearing the mysterious voice coming from this world's time and space, they became much more cautious than before. Knowing that there are transcendent strongmen of the heavens here, they will naturally not be too reckless. A look across different worlds in time, whether it is the God Emperor of the God realm, the Zuxian of the Earth Immortal realm, or the Azura Emperor of the Azura realm, including the Emperor of the Heaven realm and the Ghost Saint of the Ghost realm. At this moment, everyone saw a vague and mysterious female figure, although there were too many mysteries to be seen through. But from this figure, these top leaders from all walks of life all felt an invisible pressure from the avenue, which was completely different from the avenue they knew. Chapter 486 Fellow Taoists. Zhao Yunyan stood high in the sky, her eyes looking through the eternal years of the nearby heavens, and she exchanged glances with many top beings, and then ignored them. The Tao transforming heavenly clothes on her body exuded a faint Taoism glow. Isolate everything from the outside, and only the unique Tao of her own self exists. Get it from different time and space, and the immortal Tao fruit can be achieved. She gently raised her left hand, and her fair and slender fingers opened. The next moment, dense white light spots floated from different time nodes and space dimensions, and even the clone gathered in her palm. In harmony with luck, in harmony with the heart, the divine will is remembered, and it is eternal. The great Tao of the immortals can be achieved here. Waves of mysterious Tao sounds belonging to the immortal system echoed inside each white light spot. Finally, it turned into a group of invisible and intangible but divine information faith light. Then, this group of information faith divine light merged into Zhao Yunyan's body, and with her own unique Tao as the origin, it began to suddenly spread to the infinite and diverse Tao outside. It was a divine Tao light belonging to the faith and information level, whether it was life or non-life, as long as there was any existence, or remembered her name, or knew some of her experiences, or even practiced anything related to the Tao system she passed on, as long as it contained information related to itself. Even if it was only a little bit, it could also become Zhao Yunyan's own immortal information Tao sign. This not only could feed back and improve oneself, but also become the coordinates of the projection of oneself, or even the original resurrection point. It contains a lot of benefits, and it is not as simple as simply absorbing the essence of faith. Many top beings involving immortals, preaching the law and preaching in the heavens, and even passing down their own names and ways, are essentially for similar results. Although my immortal way is different, it also involves the application of this aspect, feeling the speed of his own evolution and strengthening. He soared to a new incredible level again. Zhao Yunyan smiled faintly, turned around, and left this Yuxian world again, entering the infinite chaos. Looking around, the powerful worlds or universes one after another are like tiny light spots floating in the sea. Looking at it at this moment, Zhao Yunyan actually had a subtle sense of déjà vu of staring at the fluorescence of the deep sea. However, in fact, any tiny light spot contains a large number of subsidiary worlds and universes. That kind of complexity and mystery surpasses any record of words and texts. This journey through the heavens is still very long and far away. There are still too many things I haven't witnessed in person. The more I see, the higher the efficiency of my own unique Tao will be. And the faster I will become stronger. Infinite growth will make me stronger forever. With this glance, Zhao Yunyao saw through many worlds and universes in the heavens. He quickly chose the place to practice the Tao fruit of the reincarnation Ghost Fairy. The target world should not be too strong. Otherwise it will interfere with the practice of the reincarnation Ghost Fairy. But it should not be too weak, resulting in too low potential for the growth limit of the reincarnation body. Let this little differentiated consciousness practice the Tao fruit of the reincarnation Ghost Fairy for me. With Gao Yunya's own cluster consciousness, it is not difficult to differentiate a little consciousness alone. And this time, she did not allocate any special refining tools to this little consciousness. The focus of the reincarnation of the 5 insects, the scales, the hair, the feathers, and the kuan, is on the inner perception of the essence of the reincarnation of the 5 insects, rather than the external cultivation of the external reincarnation body. Zhao Yunyao flicked her fingers and actively put her little consciousness into the law of the reincarnation of the selected target world, allowing it to reincarnate and be reborn naturally. After doing these things, Zhao Yunyao started on the road alone. Appreciate and witness the various scenery of this infinite world of heavens. But this time, not long after, she accidentally met another top practitioner who had cultivated the only way. He called himself Wang Xian, a young man. Although the growth rate of the other party's only way was not as fast and terrifying as his own. But he was already a very rare fellow practitioner. Taking this opportunity, Zhao Yunyao stopped for a short time and stopped temporarily, and began to discuss the mystery of the only way with this top practitioner. The world of mortals cultivating immortals. The small Nanzhou world group. The lost spiritual world. One day, in a vast and unknown primeval forest on the Xueyuan continent, bird, sword, and beasts ran wild, making this place full of wildness and prosperity. Under the roots of a certain tree, there was an unknown small nest hidden. Dozens of red beast eggs the size of yellow rice grains were quietly placed and hidden here. After a while, one of the red beast eggs shook gently a few times. Then not long after, the surface of the beast egg cracked, revealing many small cracks. Not long after, a strange little scorpion with a red body and 2 scorpion tails behind it crawled out. When it unfolded its retracted claws, it was discovered that it actually had 4 claws. This is a relatively rare insect beast on the Blood Origin continent, and it is called a 2-tailed fire scorpion. When the first 2-tailed fire scorpion cub broke out of its shell, the remaining dozens of tiny beast eggs also shook gently one after another, and soon new beast eggs began to crack, and new cubs were born. As for the 2-tailed fire scorpion cubs born first, they had taken the opportunity to devour the unborn beast eggs. The competition of life has already begun before birth. Thanks to this, or perhaps because of its talent, the first 2-tailed fire scorpion born seemed very strong, and it easily defeated other of its kind and devoured them one after another. Then in the next few decades, this talent far surpassing its kind made this 2-tailed fire scorpion particularly outstanding. Not long after, it was noticed by other magic cultivators on the Blood Origin continent, who spent some energy to kill it directly and use its body as the raw material for puppet refining. Even the inner spirit was extracted and used for other cultivation, until even the spirit was consumed. A mysterious consciousness once again entered the reincarnation in the reincarnation sleep, and began another reincarnation of the 5 insects. In the second life, this time he reincarnated to the Thunder continent in the spiritual world. He became a male member of the Juchi tribe here, but at the same time, his potential and qualifications were extremely outstanding, far exceeding his peers. But because he was too outstanding, he stood out from the crowd and was particularly eye-catching. So much so that during an outing, he was directly assassinated by a strong man of the hostile race. He would not give the good seedlings of the hostile race a chance to grow up. The third reincarnation started again. This time he reincarnated into a member of the Feiyu Daping tribe in the Fengyuan continent of the spiritual world. He was still born with extremely excellent potential and qualifications. But in this wild and terrible world, there are many hostile races of the Daping tribe. Good seedlings with excellent qualifications are also frequently targeted. As a result, it also failed to grow up and died early. Chapter 487, transformed into a butterfly, reincarnated again and again, switching between the 5 insects of the genus Lycoris, scaly, hairy, and feathered, because that bit of innate consciousness is high enough. The qualifications of the newborn are terrifyingly strong after each reincarnation. Being too outstanding is also very likely to attract hostile forces, races, and individuals to assassinate, causing premature death. But at the same time, the strength of Zhao Yunya's consciousness is also naturally weakened in the continuous reincarnation. The powerful extraordinary nature is gradually stripped away. This is the mystery of reincarnation. If you cannot completely transcend reincarnation, your true spirit will be wiped out in reincarnation after reincarnation, and you will become the purest and most fundamental basic existence. Then in the next tens of millions of years, reincarnated again and again, and reincarnated back and forth among the 5 insects of the Zhoutian. The innate qualifications and potential of each life are weakened synchronously because the essence of consciousness is weakened by reincarnation. However, this result also makes the reincarnation immersion effect more outstanding and obvious. Instead, it is more in line with the fundamental existence of the 5 insects reincarnation, Zhao Yunya's main body, which is far away in the infinite chaos. Noticed this situation and not only did not choose to strengthen, but took the initiative to further suppress and weaken that little consciousness source, and isolate the powerful influence from the main body. If you want to fully understand and control reincarnation, you have to go deep into reincarnation. Just like if you want to transcend the world, you also need to be baptized by the world before you can understand how not to be affected by it. The same is true for the 5 insects reincarnation goes to mortal. After repeated weakening and reincarnation, the initial innate qualifications have become more and more ordinary and mediocre, until that little bit of consciousness was completely immersed in the state of reincarnation. Thousands of generations have passed since the first reincarnation. Spiritual world, Fengyuan continent, in a remote and desolate area, a place called Tianmi realm by the human race and the demon race. A thick ancient tree that grows through the sky and the earth is quietly rooted in this place. For countless thousands of years, it has been the core of the entire Tianmi realm. Even many huge cities are built between these thick branches. Many ordinary-sized mountains are not as thick as these branches. Some mountains, rivers, and lakes on the surface can be said to be all on the branches and leaves of this thick ancient tree. So much so that from a distance, it seems as if this is a pillar supporting the sky standing here. At this moment, on the back of a piece of green leaves that is as huge as an island, hundreds of yellow-white oval insect eggs are neatly arranged, and the surface looks very smooth. As day after day passes, the embryos inside these eggs have finally developed into larvae, and have reached the stage where they can break out of their shells. The unfixed ends of many eggs gradually reveal tiny cracks, and some small black spots could be vaguely seen shaking inside. And then the top of the egg soon broke open. Then, many light green insects, only as big as rice grains, crawled out of the eggs one after another. The rebirth of life brings everything to start over. After many small insects broke out of their shells, they followed their primitive instincts and moved their soft bodies to other places far away from here. The smell of the broken eggs will attract some natural enemies. All newborn insects must leave here as quickly as possible. Otherwise they will inevitably fall into the mouths of natural enemies and become one of their delicious foods. Survival of the fittest. The strong prey on the weak has already begun before birth. In all the insects that instinctively crawl to avoid, the reincarnation body of that little consciousness is also mixed in, following the same large group to avoid natural enemies. Fortunately, the body of this ancient tree is really huge. Even its leaves are very large. The veins on the leaves are like towering and steep mountains and valleys for these ordinary insects that have just been born. They can find gaps to hide themselves by running around for a while. In this way, they live in hiding, with a muddled spiritual consciousness, just like wild beasts and insects. When hungry, they chew some leaves and hide at other times. This lasted for more than 10 days, and the insects have reached the stage of metamorphosis. After searching for a while, the little bug found a narrow and hidden gap in the veins of the leaf, then opened its mouth, spit out silk to form a cocoon, and wrapped itself up. Not long after, the whole thing turned into a green oval cocoon. Gradually, the silk cocoon began to harden as a whole, and under the influence of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the air, after only a few hours, it turned into a small insect pupa with the same color as the leaf. No matter how the outside world blows, rains, suns and rains, the insect pupa hiding behind the leaf is not affected at all. And because it is indeed too weak, many lives will naturally ignore it and do not pay attention to it at all. In this situation where no one paid any attention, another 10 days passed peacefully. The hardened insect pupa fixed on the back of the leaf and motionless finally moved. A series of subtle cracking sounds came from the inside of the insect pupa, and a narrow crack formed on the surface of the back shell little by little. Crack. The sound of the insect pupa breaking gradually increased. The crack also became wider. Not long after, a butterfly with a narrow body came out from the inside. After a short period of adaptation, the pair of purple-black thin butterfly wings that were tightly attached to the back of the insect body slowly opened, showing the gorgeous and charming pattern. At first glance, it seemed that on the surface of this pair of soft black butterfly wings, there were some deep purple starlight shining. As beautiful and mysterious as the night sky, the thin butterfly wings fluttered a few times, and then took off, riding the wind, dancing in the air. Perhaps because of the special nature of this thick ancient tree, the spiritual energy of the heaven and earth around it is also quite rich, which breeds a huge number of low-level spiritual flowers and herbs. For cultivators, even those who are only in the chi refining stage, they look down on such low-level spiritual flowers and herbs. The resources of the spiritual world are too abundant and rich. Even the remote and barren land occupied by the human race and the demon race has a large number of cultivation resources. Therefore, the low-level spiritual flowers and herbs that even the chi refining stage cultivators look down on have become a good thing for these ordinary birds, beasts and insects to fight for. The little butterfly that shed its cocoon and became a butterfly was also lucky enough to swallow some nectar from low-level spiritual flowers. Under the nourishment of the spiritual flower nectar, it quietly and passively became a demon. The ignorant and chaotic wild insect consciousness also gained some spiritual wisdom little by little in this process. Until one day, after swallowing some spiritual flower nectar by chance, its spiritual wisdom was completely born and formed. Who am I? The little butterfly landed on the petal of a low-level spiritual flower, twisting its little head, full of curiosity about everything around it. Chapter 488 Jiang Kai Dai. The little butterfly, who had just been born with spiritual wisdom, was curious about everything, even if these things had been seen countless times before. However, the results and feelings of looking at them in a state of ignorance and in a state of wisdom must be completely different. So the little butterfly was really like a curious baby, curious about everything. She sniffed here and there, and suddenly flapped a pair of soft butterfly wings on her back, flying around in the flowers, unconsciously surrounded by a trace of extremely thin demonic aura. As for those cultivators who were flying high, the little butterfly was also instinctively afraid. It seemed that she knew they could easily kill her. So the little butterfly would hide quietly by herself, and began to consciously prevent other people and beasts from easily discovering her, and followed the instinct of life to breathe in and out towards the moon every day. This instinctive breathing is an ability engraved in the bones of every newborn little demon, as direct as eating and drinking water. Although the efficiency is very low, the little butterfly can feel her gradual improvement every day. The simple and ignorant newborn wisdom is very easy to be happy and satisfied. Time flies, and several years have passed. The ignorant little butterfly at the beginning has also grown stronger and stronger in spiritual wisdom to the level of being no weaker than the human cultivators, and has also had its own sentimentality and emotional changes. She lay on the tip of the leaf, watching the cultivators coming and going on the tree trunk below. There are human beings, demons, and all kinds of strange looks. But the little butterfly found that no matter what these guys look like, they all have something called a name. They all have names. So should I have one too? What's a better name for me? When the little butterfly thought about this question and pondered deeply, there is always a vague name that seems to emerge, but soon fades away. The little butterfly was just a little dazed, and there was no abnormal change. I've heard those ordinary people mention that I'm an ordinary butterfly called purple star butterfly. If that's the case, the little butterfly tilted its head and thought seriously for a while. Soon, it made a decision in its heart, and its compound eyes were full of happiness and joy. I'll call myself Jiang Kai Dai from now on. Looking back now, the first mouthful of spiritual honey I swallowed by chance in my childhood was from a low-level spiritual plant called water spirit ginger, which gave me the opportunity to initially enlighten my spiritual wisdom. Conscious that she had a name, the butterfly demon Jiang Kai Dai couldn't help but dance in the air. Some human and demon cultivators who came and went, or noticed the little butterfly in the air. Only a few looked up and found that it was a little fellow who was only in the 3rd level of chi training. And then they didn't care. And Jiang Kaidai was also happy like this. It was best if no one paid special attention to her. The cautious life in these years also made her very clear in her heart that before being strong enough, being outstanding is definitely more harmful than beneficial. It is very easy to bring yourself a fatal disaster. On the contrary, being ordinary, not outstanding, will live longer and safer. After flying for a while, Jiang Kaidai fell from the air and landed on the tip of a leaf, and began to think about important things about herself. I need a demon cultivation method that suits me. The efficiency of cultivation is too low if I only rely on the instinctive breathing after becoming a demon. If the cultivation speed is not fast enough, sooner or later there will be a day when my lifespan will run out. I don't want to die so easily. The joy of being alive is really comfortable, even if there are occasional setbacks and hardships. As long as you live long enough, there will always be infinite possibilities in the future, and there will always be a time to turn things around. Considering the problem of demon cultivation method, Jiang Kaidai felt a little dignified. Although there are often many demon cultivators here, but in terms of the proportion of members, human cultivators occupy the vast majority. Judging from the news I have overheard over the years, this is the place ruled by the human Tianmiling Wang. So human cultivators occupy the majority here. The main activity area of demon cultivators is not in Tianmi realm, but in the adjacent place next door. It is said that there are as many as 7, each ruled and managed by a different powerful demon king. Although they are adjacent, the distance is too far. With my weak magic power now, if I really want to cross such a vast place to the gathering place of the demon clan, I may encounter an accident and die on the way. It is better to look for it here. What if I find a suitable method? However, when Jiang Kaidai looked at the shops built on tree trunks and leaves, or the stalls, she knew that they all needed something called spirit stones to buy what she wanted. But she didn't have any spirit stones at all, even if it was just the lowest grade inferior spirit stones. Huh? It seems that you don't necessarily need spirit stones to buy things. Jiang Katie's eyes sparkled, and she looked curiously at the human cultivator who was using a talisman to exchange things on the street stall. She had seen similar scenes more than once before, but most of them were not exchanged with talismans, but some strange things that she didn't know or had never seen before. Bartering seems to be a good idea. Thinking of this method, Jiang Kaidai flew up quickly. She flew to her usual residence happily and picked out the things she had picked up before. There were leftover low-level spirit flower petals and unknown silk threads. There were also some strange black things that looked like some kind of ore. She spread her 6 long legs, grabbed these things, and happily flew to the human stalls, ready to use these things to exchange for a demon clan technique. But the next actual action still hit Xiao Kaidai. Either the other party didn't have any demon cultivation skills, or they didn't like her things at all, saying that they were some unwanted junk, and drove her away directly, disliking her for affecting their business. Bumping along the way, Jiang Kaidai seemed to find that these things were worthless. Only she herself had collected them like a treasure. Alas, it seems that it won't work. What should I do? Jiang Kaidai stood on the side of the road holding her things, looking a little dejected and listless. Just as she was thinking about it, a human cultivator who passed by her had already walked by, but suddenly stopped and looked back at the black stone in Jiang Katie's arms that was the size of a human baby's palm. Deep in those eyes, there was a faint strange light. Soon he turned around and came to Jiang Kaidai. This fellow demon. How much is your blackwood iron ore? Hey! Jiang Kaidai looked up at the person who came, and found that this was a human cultivator in the late stage of Qi training, with a powerful magic power, much more powerful than herself. Seeing this, Jiang Kaidai felt a little nervous unconsciously, but suddenly realized that this was also an opportunity. Chapter 489 Confusion. The butterfly demon, who was a little depressed, suddenly had a new idea in his mind after hearing this question. Perhaps he could use this to achieve results in the cultivation method. Considering this, Jiang Kaidai said excitedly and nervously, all you need is a cultivation method of the demon race in the Qi training period. And it would be best if it is suitable for my branch of the demon race. It doesn't matter even if the cultivation method is relatively low level. The visitor was surprised when he heard these words. He never thought it would be so cheap. Most of the Qi training period cultivation methods, with the whole book and some accompanying basic spells, only cost 1 or 2 spirit stones. And they are low-grade spirit stones. What is expensive is the high-level cultivation method, not the low-level cultivation method. It seems that Xiao Dayo, can also get lucky today. Fortunately, I was born with special spiritual eyes that can see through objects. Otherwise, I might not be lucky enough to get lucky this time. I just don't know what is hidden inside this ore. Although Xiao Dayo couldn't tell it for the time being, he didn't mind taking a gamble. It's just the cost of a low-grade spiritual stone. So after hearing the words of this little demon, Xiao Dayo hurriedly searched for a street stall demon clan skill from his storage bag. Here, this is the water yuan gong that demon clan cultivators can practice. There is no type requirement. Any demon clan cultivator can practice it. And it also comes with several basic spells such as wind control technique, sky eye technique, water yuan cover, etc., which are very suitable for Taoist friends. Seeing the other party handing over a paper book, Jiang Kaidai stretched out a small claw, grabbed the book, flipped through it quickly, and then closed the book and handed the black ore to the other party. Down you. This ore is yours. Goodbye. Okay. Xiao Dayo caught the black iron ore with something hidden inside, suppressed his excitement, and turned around and left this place without hesitation. As for the ore, he put it into the storage bag. There are other immortal cultivators around here, so it is not suitable to break this ore. If there is really some valuable treasure inside, it will cause big trouble for yourself. Good things, of course, must be enjoyed secretly and alone to be safe. As for Jiang Kaidai, after seeing this human immortal cultivator leave, she also picked up the book as a treasure, and flew away with the remaining things. A pair of butterfly wings fluttered gently, combined with the effect of magic power. Jiang Kaidai has a faster flying speed than most of the immortal cultivators of the same level. Not long after, she disappeared here and flew towards the vast and boundless mountains. The human race area is not suitable for her to stay for a long time after all. The years passed quickly and quietly. Before we knew it, hundreds of years had passed in the blink of an eye. Thanks to the favorable immortal cultivation environment in the spiritual world, even ordinary mortals without any spiritual roots can gradually improve themselves to the level comparable to the immortal cultivators in the God transformation stage through hard work. Although there are very few mortal body cultivators who can be comparable to the God transformation stage, but most of them can be promoted to the nascent soul stage, which is much better than the mortal world. Although Jiang Katie's demon bloodline is ordinary, she is much better than ordinary mortals without spiritual roots. So much so that in just 100 years, she has become a little demon at the high-level God transformation stage. It can be said that she has barely escaped from the class of cannon fodder. At this moment, in the Purgatory Mountains ruled by the demon king Burning Sky, in a cave under the crown of a tall and sturdy ancient tree, Jiang Kaidai was quietly meditating and practicing alone. Until a long time later, she stopped meditating and practicing. Waving her hand, she released a water mirror technique, and the water-attributed mana gathered out of thin air, and soon condensed in front of her to form a floating water mirror. The mirror clearly reflected her current body shape and appearance. Her body trunk, head, feet, etc. have completely transformed into a human form, showing the appearance of a young girl who looks very delicate and delicate. On its back, there is a pair of purple-black dreamy butterfly wings. The surface of the butterfly wings, which are as black as ink, is covered with pure purple spots, which are large or small and vary in size. At first glance, it seems like a group of shining stars in the deep dark starry sky. When it flaps back and forth unconsciously, it is like the sea of stars rippling and flowing. Jiang Kaidai quietly looked at the water mirror in front of her. Her mind was in a trance, as if she saw other faces looming. But when she looked at it intently, she found that everything was normal. There was no abnormality at all, as if she herself had a mental hallucination. It appeared again. What is going on? Why do I always feel like I've become some other unknown existence? Sometimes it's a scorpion. Sometimes it's a human. Sometimes it's an octopus, a sparrow, and a lizard. And as the power of magic increases, this situation occurs more frequently. Jiang Kaidai waved her hand to disperse the water mirror in front of her, and couldn't help but cover both sides of her forehead with both hands. There is always an indescribable and inexplicable weird feeling in her heart. It was not until a long time later that Jiang Kaidai calmed down and collected her thoughts. She put down her hands, then stood up and opened the formation and prohibition arranged at the entrance of the tree hole. She stood up and walked to the outside of the cave alone, looking out for a while. looking at this vast and continuous majestic mountains. The sky is high and the earth is far away. She only felt that all the upset emotions in her heart were unconsciously relaxed, making her mind gradually calm. After a long time, Jiang Kaidai focused her attention on herself again. There are some guesses about her situation. In this world, reincarnation exists, and there are many real examples. Although I have lived for hundreds of years, I have never seen it with my own eyes. But not seeing it does not mean it does not exist. Could my situation be related to reincarnation? This conjecture is what Jiang Kaidai thinks is more reliable. In addition to this, a strange instinctive intuition that seems to be there and not there makes her vaguely understand that it seems that she needs to master the essence of the 5 insects of the scales: hairs, feathers, and crickets to achieve the real goal. But what is the real goal? Jiang Kaidai herself can't explain it clearly. How can the 5 insects of the scales, hairs, feathers, and crickets be integrated to control them? I always feel that this matter is very important to me. Standing blankly at the door for a while, Jiang Kaidai still didn't know what she should do. And she had no clue at all. Looking up at the mountains, rivers, and lakes in the distance. After a short silence, she quickly made a decision in her heart. Maybe I should go out for a walk. Look around. Maybe I'll get inspiration one day. Where should I go? Chapter 490: Reincarnation and Fall. After a brief silence and thinking for a while, Jiang Kaidai had an idea in her mind. Among the 3 realms of the human race and the 7 lands of the demon race in this spiritual world, which place has the most diverse resources and the most abundant records of various things? It is undoubtedly Tianyuan City, which is jointly guarded by the human race and the demon race. The only entrance and exit to the 3 realms and 7 lands of the human race and the demon race is in Tianyuan City. Other places are covered by the super formation inherited from the fairy world. This Purgatory Mountains is a long distance away from Tianyuan City. Fortunately, these areas are all within the 3 realms and 7 lands, and there is a lot of security control. It is more peaceful than the wild world outside. Just go slowly. Having made a decision in her heart, Jiang Kaidai turned back to her cave, packed up some things to take away, then left here, set up the band, and went away alone without looking back, heading straight to the area where Tianyuan City was located thousands of miles away. Several years of travel time passed quickly. Tianyuan City was already in sight. However, the construction of Tianyuan City was significantly different from other cities. That is, there were no city gates, etc., and the whole was in an isolated and sealed state. On weekdays, all entry and exit were carried out by teleportation arrays. Compared with the end facing the wilderness area, the internal teleportation settings were definitely not as strict as those facing the outside. Not long after, Jiang Kaidai arrived near Tianyuan. There were also some affiliated small cities built nearby, and the teleportation arrays that teleported to the interior of Tianyuan City were set up in the surrounding small cities. Jiang Kaidai entered the small city and walked straight to the area where the teleportation array was located. Before she got close, she was shocked by the coming and going of people here. Members of various human and demon races were queuing up here to teleport in and out, which seemed very prosperous. The immortal cultivators in the refining void stage, who were sitting nearby, just scanned it casually with their spiritual sense and didn't care. They didn't take any special precautions against the human and demon races. Jiang Kaidai was also in the queue, and it would soon be her turn. She followed the example of other immortal cultivators and took the initiative to pay a teleportation fee. Then she stood on the large teleportation array with other human and demon cultivators. There was a flash of light in front of her eyes, and when Jiang Kaidai could see things clearly again, the surrounding scene had changed a lot. The place where she stood under her feet was a teleportation array similar to an altar, and around her, there were several immortal cultivators in the nascent soul stage, and the leader was in the spiritualization stage. All immortal cultivators wore uniform armor and existed in a queue. Jiang Kaidai just took a quick look around and left the teleportation array in a hurry. No one occupied the space here to affect the normal operation of the teleportation array. As she walked, she looked around. After she walked out of the hall that was more than 10 feet high and hundreds of feet wide, she saw a layout of more than 5 feet wide. The passage was like an arc corridor, and the surface looked like a kind of unknown blue-gray stone. Every few distances, there was a hall connected to it, and the hall was equipped with a teleportation array of the same level. Walking along the passage, Jiang Kaidai saw hundreds of teleportation halls. This is the legendary Tianyuan city. It is so prosperous. I just walked such a short distance. But I saw so many teleportation arrays coexisting. And they are always in teleportation operation. At this moment, Jiang Kaidai, who came to the interior of Tianyuan city, really felt like a country bumpkin entering the city. She was surprised and curious about everything. It was not until she walked out of this curved passage and came to the outside that she saw its overall shape, which was similar to a circular chimney. As far as the eye can see, there are hundreds of such tall buildings. Many buildings with the characteristics of the human race and the demon race are built around each of these towers. Some are thousands of feet high, and some are so low that they are not even 10 feet high. Pavilions, towers, palaces, waterside pavilions, and all kinds of buildings are available. It didn't take long for Jiang Kaidai to be dazzled. After walking out of these teleportation towers, Jiang Kaidai walked alone on the wide and flat street. She was curious about all the things around her, and couldn't help looking around. Just watching, she felt a special feeling in her heart. The world is like a sea of suffering, and all living beings are trying to cross it. If you don't enter the world, how can you transcend it? If you don't enter the cycle of reincarnation, how can you transcend it? When this feeling emerged in her heart, Jiang Kaidai suddenly stopped. And she always felt that something in her heart was about to come out. She couldn't help but put her hand on her forehead and shook it gently. But it seemed to become stronger. Why did it appear so quickly this time? It was only a few years ago. Jiang Kaidai's face changed. She suppressed her trance and looked around. Soon, she flew to the mountains not far away. It was only a short distance of more than 1,000 miles. But Jiang Kaidai felt it was particularly long at this moment. Several times, she almost fell from the sky. Fortunately, she finally persevered and got into the mountains. Then she took out a middle-level escape talisman with Earth attribute, and activated it with the mantra and magic power. Soon, a yellowish-brown light rose from the inside of the talisman, covering her. In just a blink of an eye, she suddenly escaped into the underground of the mountains. She went a long way away. Jiang Kaidai cast a spell underground, dug out an underground cave, and put rocks and soil into the storage bracelet, and then took out the formation flag and formation plate, and arranged warning and hidden formations around. After doing these things, Jiang Kaidai could no longer hold on. Her body tilted, and she just laid down in this underground cave. At the same time, Jiang Kaidai only felt that her mind and consciousness seemed to be sinking into the depths of an endless ocean. All kinds of strange memories converged into this ocean, hazy and unclear. In just a trance, Jiang Kaidai saw many insects, fish, birds and beasts flashing by, as if every figure was herself. That strange mysterious feeling made her familiar and unfamiliar. However, every time the ocean of memory surged, she would sink a distance in it, and also increase that special sense of oppression, as if she was assimilated and dissolved in it. The mind and consciousness were in a trance. Jiang Kaidai felt like she was asleep, and as if she was completely awake. This contradictory feeling did not make her notice anything wrong. Gradually, Jiang Kaidai immersed herself in it unconsciously. She felt like she had become a fish, swimming around in the water, avoiding the pursuit and hunting of powerful predators. Suddenly, she felt like she had become a cow, following the tribe to chase the fat water plants. In the blink of an eye, he became a golden eagle again, flying freely in the sky. The strange and chaotic changes soon confused Jiang Kaidai. Chapter 491 Awakening. As her mind and consciousness sank in a trance, Jiang Kaidai felt that she had become a variety of strange life forms, covering hundreds of different races. This mysterious change turned into an invisible pressure. It entangled with her mind and consciousness in all aspects, and finally immersed herself in it. This new personality, Jiang Kaidai, born in reincarnation, was quietly assimilated into the vast ocean of memory. It was not until a long time later that Jiang Kaidai, who was lying on the ground, woke up again. But at this moment, her eyes and expression had obviously changed a lot from before, as if she had completely changed her soul. But if you look closely, she also has everything that Jiang Kaidai should have. I didn't expect that I would wake up from the reincarnation so quickly this time. Zhao Yunyan sat up, sensed it carefully, and understood something in her heart. The main body has become much stronger. Even if it is actively isolated and suppressed, it can still have such a big impact. And the Era Festival of the Weird Clan has made the various qualifications of the main body grow and strengthen. The evolution and expansion of the unique way is getting faster and faster than before. Now, after thousands of reincarnations, Zhao Yunyao has personally experienced the different mysteries of the 5 insects more than once, and has a lot of in-depth understanding. The more she understands, the easier it is for her to grasp the essential secrets of the reincarnation of the 5 insects. Now it can be regarded as almost all of them. But there is still a big gap from the real reincarnation ghost fairy fruit. And in this situation, it can only be regarded as breaking through the reincarnation, but not condensing the ghost fairy fruit. Only when the 5 insects of the worm, scale, hair, feather and cricket are combined into one, and embrace the life of all things in the universe, can they be regarded as true ghost immortals. As for those innate sacred beings, chaotic demon gods and the like, they are all special lives, not included in the number of the universe, each with its own unique existence, and are special cases. How to master the mystery of the 5 insects and make them return to one. After a brief thought, Zhao Yunyao quickly made a decision in her heart. She placed the opportunity of returning to the source in the essence of the breakthrough of the refining period of the immortal cultivation system. The breakthrough of the refining period requires the fusion of 5 different spiritual roots into one in order to succeed. It is precisely because of this special existence. The lifespan of the immortal cultivators from the refining period enters an infinite state. As long as they can survive each longevity catastrophe, they can live forever. Unlike the refining period and below, there is an obvious upper limit on the lifespan. If the essence of the 5 insects reincarnation is treated as 5 special spiritual roots, it may be possible to use the immortal cultivation system of the refining void stage to advance and complete the transformation of the 5 insects into one. To achieve this, the means of adding spiritual roots externally is a good reference target. After repeatedly thinking for a while, Zhao Yunyao had a bottom line in her heart. Then she stood up, collected the formation flags and other things arranged around, and cast a spell to escape above the surface. Not long after, she appeared in the mountains outside. She counted the spiritual stones in the storage bag and felt that they were enough for use. Zhao Yunyao then spread the pair of purple-black butterfly wings behind her, and at the same time used her magic power to make herself suddenly soar into the sky. This spiritual world is much stronger than the mortal world, not only in terms of spiritual stones, spiritual medicines, spiritual minds, and other resources. Even the various skills and secret inheritances are far superior to the mortal world. The means of replenishing spiritual roots that do not exist in the mortal world can be purchased in almost any decent store here in the spiritual world. It is not considered a profound secret method at all. The secret method of replenishing spiritual roots is good, but things that serve as spiritual roots require some means. Whether it is using demon pills to sacrifice pill spiritual roots, or using some kind of spiritual treasures or celestial spiritual treasures to sacrifice and refine into instrument spiritual roots. In the case of the union of the human race and the demon race, they are all valuable things. However, speaking of it, they are also items that can be bought directly with spiritual stones. It's just that some transactions cannot be done through fair means. Thinking about things in his mind, not long after, Zhao Yunyao came to a demon shop inside Tianyuan City. A transformed demon cultivator who was staying inside at the moment saw Zhao Yunyao coming, and immediately put on a serious expression on his face, and took the initiative to greet. I wonder what this fellow Taoist wants when he comes to our store. We dare not say that we have everything from the 2 tribes, but we have about 30% to 40% of them. Do you have a secret method to sacrifice the spirit roots of pills or instruments? Zhao Yunyao entered the store and asked directly. Hearing this, the demon tribe store owner, who was also in the spirit transformation stage, laughed. He proudly introduced it to Zhao Yunyao. We have a lot of such secret methods in our store, and there is more than one. Different secret methods have different effects on the efficiency and results of refining spirit roots. I just don't know what type of secret method you need. While speaking, the demon shop owner took out a jade slip and handed it to Zhao Yunyao. Zhao Yunyao reached out to take the jade slip, put it on her forehead, and used her spiritual sense to explore the detailed information of the goods stored inside. After a moment, she had an idea in her mind and put down the jade slip. He returned the things to the other party and said, just this secret method of sacrifice and refining called root refining method will do. If there is a demon pill with a single attribute, each of you can bring one. Even a demon pill in the Jinden stage will do. The grade requirement is not high. Hee hee. It's a good thing that you are also a demon. So you dare to say it so openly. The owner of the Huashan shop had a fake smile on his face and said, if a human cultivator dares to say that, I will have to make a scene with him. Zhao Yunyan didn't say much about this. If these things really were traded across races, even if the human race and the demon race united, it would be a taboo and could easily lead to hatred and confrontation. Only in secret would some cultivators do this kind of trade secretly. But now she is also a demon cultivator. So naturally she doesn't need to consider these things. Even if the demon pills were traded openly, nothing would happen. Because this is the demon race's own internal affairs. It is a private matter. Zhao Yunyan didn't have to wait for long. Soon, the 5 single attribute demon pills she wanted, as well as the root refining method for refining the pill spirit roots, were delivered to her at the same time, in front of her. Seeing this, Zhao Yu now confirmed that there was nothing wrong with the things. Then she took out more than 1,000 medium-grade spirit stones from her storage bracelet. With a wave of her sleeve, the spirit stones returned to the other party, and she took the purchased goods herself. Then she turned around and left this not-so-big demon cultivator shop without hesitation. Looking at the direction, Zhao Yu now came to the place where the cave was rented inside Tianyuan City, spent a sum of spirit stones, and rented it directly for 100 years. Not long after, Zhao Yunyao appeared outside the door of an independent courtyard with a token key. She casually used the token to draw in the air to break the formation and restrictions here. After entering, she began to modify and deal with the formation and restrictions here personally. Chapter 492 The Only Way. After spending a little time and effort, Zhao Yunao personally modified and processed the formations and restrictions inside and outside this independent courtyard, and made sure she knew them all. After she finished this, she felt relieved to enter the retreat room. The entire courtyard itself was built near a spiritual vein in Tianyuan City. Therefore, the spiritual energy here is obviously much more than that in the outside world. After a few casual glances, Zhao Yunyao sat on the futon. Then she took out a jade slip from the storage bracelet and carefully studied the contents of the root refining method. She naturally would not use this thing directly because it was not suitable. With her current terrible understanding, it would not take long to comprehend this thing thoroughly. Soon, she completely understood the secret method of offering alchemy roots. Then she took out the 5 demon pills she had bought before and observed their respective properties. After figuring it out, Zhao Yunyao began to readjust and deduce the root refining method based on the characteristics of the 5 demon pills themselves. About a quarter of an hour later, Zhao Yunyao had already made relevant preparations. Then, she used her spiritual consciousness and magic power, and used the newly deduced and modified secret method of sacrifice to start processing the 5 demon pills. And in this process, she put the 5 insect mysteries she had comprehended into them one by one. Just like refining Xiantian objects, she made appropriate adjustments according to the immortal cultivation system. Then Zhao Yunyao began to enter a state of retreat and deep cultivation. In the infinite chaos, Zhao Yunyao's body noticed the changes in that little consciousness, and knew that it would not take long to condense the reincarnation ghost immortal fruit. Looking at the top practitioner, who was weaker than herself in front of her, she had seen through the other party's unique Dao situation at a glance. Although they were both unique Dao, the corresponding Dao fruit of the other party was still limited to the infinitely far transcendent myth system. It did not involve the real eternal silence, even if it was the eternal silence umbrella mentioned by the other party. In essence, it was just a decay change of the extraordinary myth, and it was not really eternal silence at all. Otherwise, the other party would not be able to practice normally in the eternal silence area. After the discussion, Zhao Yunyao once again set out alone, wandering around in this boundless chaos. During this period, she saw the evolution and birth of the origin world, and also witnessed its extinction and demise. Every existence is not weaker than the evil earth plateau, and even better, competing with the innate sacred Tao, and competing with the Tao demon god in performing the law. The birth and death of thousands of worlds, the life and death of the vast number of sentient beings, in her eyes, have become a thing of the past. In the entire journey through the infinite chaos, she had also restrained herself, disguised herself as a moderate practitioner, entered different worlds, strong or weak, to experience and witness the achievements of different practice systems and civilizations. The more she saw, the more terrifying her growth rate became. Gradually, unconsciously, even if she looked at this infinite world and universe. No matter how transcendent the immortals, demons, gods, demons, spirits, ghosts, Buddhas, etc., they were gradually left behind by her. And the gap between them was still widening and expanding at an accelerated rate. She had already reached a state of infinite invincibility. On the other side, inside the Tianyuan city in the spiritual world, the clone Zhao Yunyao finally finished refining the 5 demon pills, so that each demon pill contained a kind of insect life source law. Then, Zhao Yunyao took the 5 special demon pills into her body. She perfectly integrated them by means of the unity of the spiritual roots in the refining period. At the same time, the fluctuation of her own mana also surged, and the external heaven and earth energy and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth were attracted to this place quickly. In just a blink of an eye, a huge vortex of energy was formed, with the gradual fusion of the 5 special demon pills. On the body of this butterfly demon cultivator, some life characteristics of the 5 insects of the scales, feathers, and feathers of the insects also emerge quietly at the same time. And as time goes by, this change is still accelerating. Feeling this, Zhao Yunao took the initiative to show the true body of the butterfly demon cultivator. Scales, feathers, shells, hair, etc., evolved and grew out of the body one after another. The butterfly, which originally looked quite beautiful, became much more hideous and weird. It seemed as if it had the appearance and characteristics of different life species at the same time. And it was not fixed, and was in a natural change form at all times. It had a sense of déjà vu of ever-changing and amorphous. After completing the breakthrough of the refining void stage, Zhao Yunyao began to assimilate the flesh with the nascent soul, transforming it bit by bit into a strange form of non-flesh matter and non-nascent soul energy, and used this as a furnace to carry the foundation to smelt his own reincarnation Ghost Immortal fruit. Ghost Immortals, the reincarnation of the 5 insects, upside down life and death, hundreds of turns and thousands of lives. The true spirit is not ignorant. Whether it is the so-called flesh, or the soul and spirit, it is just an insignificant existence. Neither cultivate the nature nor cultivate the life. Only the mark of the origin of one's own true spirit is the root of the ghost fairy. Once it is completed, even if the body falls into reincarnation and reincarnates forever, it can guarantee that the consciousness of the true spirit will not be affected by reincarnation in the slightest. And the true spirit will not be ignorant. No matter how the body and soul change, I will always be myself. All kinds of mysteries about ghosts and immortals kept appearing in the mind of Zhao Yunyao. The clone, gradually, this strange body and soul that combined the life characteristics of the 5 insects gradually turned into a mysterious furnace full of reincarnation laws and the origin of the 5 insects. The difference between the soul and the body has completely disappeared here. All of them have become fuel for tempering the mark of the true spirit and origin of the body. It's like boiling oil in a raging fire, or refining an elixir. During this period, Zhao Yunyao, the clone's spiritual consciousness, emerged with various experiences and insights from hundreds of reincarnations in the past. At this moment, it turned into strands of mysterious light. Just like the sea that accepts hundreds of rivers, all streams return to their source when they converge near the true spirit origin mark of the clone Zhao Yunyao. All these mysterious Tao lights turned into brilliant brilliance and bloomed, like Tao fire, like lightning, and like hazy clouds. Let everything in it be baptized and tempered. It was like going through countless reincarnations again, realizing the Tao and condensing the law in the reincarnation, until completely transcending the reincarnation. In the infinite chaos, Zhao Yunyao seemed to have realized something. She suddenly raised her hand and took her Ghost Immortal Tao fruit. Looking at the eternal true spirit origin mark that had been tempered into shape, Zhao Yunyao smiled faintly, and then took it into her body. The mark of the eternal true spirit origin representing the fruit of the Ghost Immortal suddenly merged with the only way, and pushed her own true spirit origin to change accordingly. In just a thought, the changes were completely completed, allowing herself to possess the eternal true spirit. 5 immortals, finally fully cultivated. In this way, my own only way will no longer have any theoretical and conceptual flaws and weaknesses, and become truly perfect and infinite. Feeling the great perfection of her own only way system, Zhao Yunyao knew in her heart that her own avenue had been completed. She was the origin and end of everything, and also the supreme infinite avenue.